Hey guys, how are you? Look, firstly, I'd just like to thank all the people that have been viewing the content that I've provided so far. Look, my goal's not to become this great big YouTuber sensation to try and make money out of, clickbaiting and things like this. My whole purpose of doing these videos is to simply there's a lot of people out there that are quite unsure that, they want to make that they've seen the the Bitcoin bull run and they've seen that massive money was made and you see all these people that are instantly millionaires, and I guess in our day and age we know money talks, so a lot of us are in the sense, we want to get rich pretty quick, and my whole purpose of making these videos is so I can share the ride with people. I want to share stories. I want to hear what people want to do with their money. I want to sort of create a network of people like-minded to myself, because there's so many people around me that just they're not ambitious, they have no goals, they're not motivated, they're constantly talking about how bad their lives are but don't do anything about it. They don't do research, they don't understand that the world is completely shifting, it's going digital. We've got augmented reality, we've got virtual reality, we've got, we're on the cusp of the real digital age right now. And I guess I sort of want to be one of those people who have documented it as such, but I focus a lot on XRP because it really is, to me, the biggest game changer if you look at the fundamentals of what the company of Ripple is doing and how they're trying to implement their native currency, XRP. You hear all these stories about, XRP, it's a security, this, that, and the other, and by definition, I guess what you would call a security, it kind of looks like Ripple, is using XRP, and XRP is a security, but the reality is they were gifted 80 billion coins. And we can sit here and say he say, she say about what we really think is a security or not, but you've really just got to look at the fundamentals of the reality and the world that we're living in now. What are the needs for the customers? What are the problems that we're trying to solve? You look at the big financial crash or the recession that's about to happen. Like, we're already in it, if you ask me. And my point is, we don't need to sit here and talk about the negatives of this coin, because the way the coin is operating right now is solving these problems that are really needed, as in on-demand liquidity. I'm not going to sit here and be the big educational guy, because there's a lot of things I don't know yet myself. That's why I'm still doing the research. But I can definitely understand the on-demand liquidity needs and the problem of not having that as a system, and hence why we're having these crashes. We build up our economy and then flop. The weight of the dollar doesn't have it. We're printing dollars. Look, my fundamentals, as I said, I want to focus on talking merely about what XRP is and how are they going to implement it into the real world, as in the real use case. Adoption comes from the need, right? We will adopt something if we see it as a need. For instance, when the internet first came out, my big example is I talk about MySpace. See, I was a late bloomer when it comes to the tech world of that such thing, Facebook and MySpace. But when I was going to school, it was MySpace this, MySpace that. You get in trouble for being on MySpace at school, and Facebook suddenly popped up out of the blue, and all of a sudden, within 3 years, Facebook had taken completely over MySpace. And in a matter of 5 years, if you had have asked someone, do you have MySpace? They would, what's MySpace? So the reality is the tech world moves towards the needs of the customers, right? If the customer wants more flexibility on their social media, they want to be able to, post more photos, or they want to have a network, they want to see who's close to them. Facebook offers that, and it constantly evolves, and that's why they continue to stay on top. They're constantly evolving. Like you look on Facebook now, I'll get on Facebook. The things you can do on Facebook at a click of a finger. You've got contact to thousands of people that you don't necessarily know, but you can find certain groups of people that are in your interest or in a category that you see interesting. Not only that, you can get up-to-date news. You've got a complete adoption of news that has been brought into the Facebook world. So instead of sitting down at dinner watching the news, you have that exact same updates. You can watch the whole news on your Facebook. through trusted sources, or what you would call trusted sources of yourself. For instance, 7 News, 9 News, this, that, or the other. It's all on there. There's so much more on there. Not only that, but you can sell your stuff on Facebook. They're constantly adding things to the market, to the Facebook ecosystem, if you will. They're looking at digital currencies. They're constantly moving towards, you know what I mean? So when you're talking about currency, I love for crypto with Scott. He explains it really well, that they were using seashells as currency, and then it moved to this. Precious metals, that we went to the paper, and my biggest point is this pen here could be worth, this much value here, but I could go overseas to another place where they manufacture these pens for a fraction of the value. This pen's worth a quarter of what it was in my native land. So the point is, value is it's ever shifting, it's ever changing, and when you're talking about XRP, it's developing value, and its value is coming through utility. What is it able to do? We already know that, I think it was 1,500 transactions a second on the network, right? It's huge. That can be scaled up. That can be scaled up many times to support the needs of all these other customers, if you will. And we're so early in the system. We're talking, it's not really early. It's been around since 2010 or whatever it was. That doesn't matter. That was still completely, it was just being brought out. It was birthed at that point. And if you were to look at it as perspective of a human's life, it's only 7 years old, and we're expecting a 7-year-old asset class, if you will, to perform the tasks of something that's been around for hundreds of years. And I think people get caught up in their lack of realization to understand that it's not going to happen overnight. These things have to be tested. They have to be put through the complete worst of the worst scenarios before we can base our whole economy on this. Because if it was to collapse under us, it's just as bad as having a financial crisis. If all of this went haywire, so say hypothetically we put all of the world's money assets into tokens, if you will, and we use XRP as the bridging currency, what happens when the bridging currency collapses? Then how do we trade? Does that make sense? So you and I, I have expectations that are real, I guess you could say. I am completely happy waiting 20 years for this thing to pop. And I say pop as in my exit strategies are different. So, I've got 4 different exit points that I want to take profits at. However, I will not sell all of my holdings because I don't know when the peak will really be. And that leads me to my next point is, I sound like a broken record when it comes to this, guys, but so many people invest well beyond their needs that they actually have to emotionally connect themselves to this. The whole point of an investment is to make a calculated decision, make a calculated amount of time that you have to wait, and take the emotion out of that. Make it a completely logical decision. If everything is logical to you, as in it's a logical amount of time to wait 5 years, then every day that you wake up, the first thing on your mind is, has it popped? Well, it's not, because you don't expect it to. It'd be nice if it did, but reality says it's not going to happen. In your reality, obviously. And there's so many people out there, the moon boys, if you will, or the moon boys and girls, or whatever, the people that go, I want it to moon tomorrow. Now, the reality is, it's such a speculative market that by all means it could. But the people out there saying, they're doing the riddle this and the riddle that, and they're making this whole big fuss and a whole big bunch of hype that gets people up and it gets people down, it gets people up and it gets people down. It's not going to happen like that. You need to just live your lives, be happy, go out and find happiness in the sense, don't just sit around and expect this to turn you into a millionaire overnight. Accept the idea that it could happen overnight, but base your complete logic around the fact that it's not. Therefore, you're not going to be disappointed when it happens. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you're going to be happy. And I cannot count the amount of bad comments I've seen of people saying, it's never going to happen. But these people you try to engage in with conversation with and ask logical questions, and they can't answer you. A, because they haven't done their own research. B, because they don't understand how the market works itself. And C, they probably don't understand the problem that Ripple's trying to solve. Does that make sense? In the sense, Bitcoin, yes, it's a store of value. It's slow, it's tired, it's old. It's like the MySpace of the Facebook, right? It performed its task. It had, you know, it had potential. It still has potential to moon, right? You know, it could go to 100 grand. There's no limit on how high Bitcoin can go. It's just what people are willing to pay for it. However, its utility, if we're going to base value around utility, not so much. You know, Facebook's not a speculative price, right? Facebook's stock price is not speculative. It's based completely on its utility and what it can bring to investors. In its early days, yes, completely, it was a speculative market. Hence why its price wasn't that high. There was a risk involved in investing in it to get a great return. So the people that were there before the money arrived turned out to be quite wealthy. Same as Apple products, same as everything. Everything that is brought to a market without its utility being based on is completely speculatory. Once the product or service has been deemed feasible for us to use and consume, and we attach value to that, what it brings to us or what it brings to a company or a business, it doesn't matter. Once we have a value attached to it through service or product, or, you know, whether it's it makes us feel good to have it, or if it's a necessity for us to have, the value then is attached, therefore the value will rise. And that also comes down to demand, how much demand it has versus how much there is of it. So for things like a pen, a basic small cheap pen is, you know, product cost very low, a cent to make, but everyone seems to need one, right? Thousands of them. Now, if we only had a small supply of pens, this is a bad analogy, but what I'm trying to get at is if there was less pens and everyone needed them, the value would go up. Does that make sense? So obviously that was the worst analogy I could have used, but it's just because I'm holding a pen. But my point I'm trying to make is there's 100 billion XRP, there's 7 billion people in the world, that works out at roughly 14.283, something like that. It works out as if every person had 14 coins in the world, that's the whole lot of XRP gone. So when you're talking about the amount of XRP in circulation or of existence, there is never going to be more than 100 billion coins. Now that means, you know, if 7 billion people had 14 coins each, they're gone, right? Now through use and trade, every time you use XRP in a transaction, there's a burn rate. I don't know exactly what the burn rate is. I think it's 0.001 or something like that. There is roughly 9 million XRP burnt a week. Don't correct me on that if I'm wrong. I think I may have got that wrong, but 9 million I think are burnt through the transactions done, which tells you at 0.01 burn rate, and there's 9 million burnt a week. I feel like I'm wrong. But hypothetically, there's 9 million burnt a week through the amount of transactions. Now imagine at that as only 1% of the world's population through using XRP right now. Now imagine when 20 or 30% of the world's population then switch to digital, right? We're infants right now, that the whole ecosystem is completely in its infancy. But imagine when it goes live, when it kicks over into its next stage, when mass adoption starts to happen, that burn rate's going to go spastic. Not only that, you've got, God knows, someone lost hundreds of millions of XRP. The wallets are gone. They're never to be seen again. Gone. See you later. This is the things that people don't get. All these other coins, yes, you know, that there's a finite amount of XRP, meaning more it's used, the less there is every single time. But the value is still going to be getting higher due to its utility and what it can bring to the market. And now we've seen it, there's over 200 financial organizations that have either trialed testing or currently using XRP, the software that utilizes XRP. Now, we cannot sit here and expect it to moon right now when only 1% of 7 billion people are using this software. It's not going to happen. There is way too many coins in the market right now, altcoins, Bitcoin, you name it. There's so many different options. We have to wait and wait and wait until XRP's utility is well above the value of any other coin. At the moment, completely speculatory. 1%, as I said, 1%. And out of that 1%, there's probably 20% of them that don't really know the utility. So the XRP family, if you will, who do know the utility, who do understand where this thing's going and have foresight and can see where it's going, great, that's great. You just need to spread the word and make logical, give people logical information rather than telling them that it's going to hit $1,000 for clickbait just because you want to get 20,000 views on your video. You're not helping anyone in that sense. What you want to do is get everyone on the same page, make sure that everyone who is investing into this knows that the reality is it's not going to happen overnight. It could, but it's not going to happen. And that's sort of where I want to leave it. I know my videos haven't got much structure, but as I said, there is a few of you out there that do watch this, and I really, really do appreciate it. I would like, if you can give me a like or a subscribe, it will help me continue to do what I do. I am spending a lot more time every single day researching and going into, I'm going into the trade analysis side of it. I'm understanding more about how the market works. But at the moment, I want to continue to make my videos on the logical point of, the logical aspect of investing into XRP or any of the coins. I don't want to touch too much on them because I haven't spent any time really researching like Cardano and those ones. I've spent a little bit of time on, but there's 2,000 plus coins out there, and I haven't got time in the day to go through each one of them and talk about what their utility is. I stumbled onto XRP through someone else telling me about it, and I thought, I'll have a look. And I looked and looked and looked, and I realized that what they're doing is massive. It rippled the company, the way they're utilizing, the way they're clear about what they do. They're clear, the escrow system is designed so that they can't tank the market. And anyone that says that it will tank the market, they're full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. So I sort of want to leave it there, guys. I would really, really appreciate it if you could give me a like, if it's not too much. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down so I know what I've got to work on. But if there's points that you don't agree with me on, please comment so that way I can correct. I can bring content that's more catered. But at the main, as I said, it's my opinion, and I want to continue to bring my opinion from my research. And yeah, that's it, guys. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, and as I said, have a good day.